Emily Carter stood outside the downtown subway station, clutching a worn leather folder that held everything she had left to prove herself: her resume, recommendation letters, and a photograph of her late mother with the words, "Never stop being kind, even when life isn't." Today was the day that could change everything. After months of unemployment, overdue rent notices, and surviving on instant noodles, she had finally landed an interview with one of the city's most respected marketing firms. It was the opportunity she had prayed for. She checked the time. 45 minutes remained before her interview, just enough to grab a coffee and calm her racing heart. But as she crossed the busy intersection, she heard a tiny voice crying. Near a crowded park entrance stood a little girl, no older than 6, trembling with tears streaming down her face. Her expensive dress was dusty, one shoe was missing, and she clutched a small stuffed rabbit as strangers hurried past without stopping. Emily hesitated for only a second. Every minute mattered. Yet something inside her wouldn't allow her to walk away. She knelt beside the child and gently asked her name. "Sophia," the girl whispered between sobs. "I can't find my daddy." Emily looked around, expecting panicked parents nearby, but no one seemed to be searching. She tried asking Sophia if she knew her address or phone number, but the frightened child could only shake her head. Emily took a deep breath, realizing this wasn't going to be solved in 5 minutes. She guided Sophia to a nearby bench, bought her a bottle of water with the last few dollars in her wallet, and stayed calm despite the ticking clock. Every passing minute pushed her dream job further away, yet leaving the little girl alone felt impossible. Soon Emily began asking nearby vendors if they had seen anyone looking for a missing child. No luck. She contacted local security, but they had received no reports yet. 20 minutes disappeared. Then 30. Emily stared at her phone. Her interview would begin in 10 minutes across town, an impossible distance away. She could still leave now and hope authorities handled everything, but when Sophia tightly grabbed her hand and whispered, "Please don't leave me," Emily's heart broke. She stayed. Finally, nearly an hour later, police officers arrived after receiving reports from frantic family members. Just as they began speaking with Emily, a convoy of black luxury SUVs rushed toward the park. Men in suits jumped out, followed by a middle-aged man whose face carried equal parts terror and relief. The moment Sophia saw him, she screamed, "Daddy," and ran into his arms. The man hugged her as though he would never let go again. Tears rolled freely down his face. He repeatedly thanked Emily, asking how he could repay her. Emily smiled softly and replied, "She's safe. That's enough." Before the man could ask anything more, Emily glanced at the time, realizing her interview had ended over 40 minutes ago. Her shoulders dropped. Months of preparation had vanished because she chose compassion over ambition. Fighting back disappointment, she quietly congratulated Sophia on being brave, wished them both well, and walked away before anyone could stop her. She didn't know the man she had just met was billionaire entrepreneur Daniel Harrison, owner of one of the country's largest investment groups and one of the most influential businessmen in America. Nor did she know that security cameras had captured every second of her kindness. As Emily returned to her tiny apartment that evening, she cried silently, believing life had once again punished her for doing the right thing. She apologized to the framed photograph of her mother, whispering that maybe kindness wasn't enough anymore. But across the city, Daniel Harrison replayed the security footage again and again. Surrounded by executives and security staff, he asked only one question: "Find the woman who chose my daughter's life over her own future. I don't care how long it takes. Bring her to me tomorrow." If you believe kindness always finds its way back, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the next chapter reveals how one selfless decision changes Emily's life forever in a way she never imagined. Chapter 2. The next morning, Emily woke early despite having nowhere to go. Her phone remained silent, and her inbox held only another rejection email. She tried convincing herself that missing the interview had been the right decision, but the weight of unpaid bills made that belief difficult to hold. As she prepared another simple breakfast, someone knocked at her apartment door. Expecting her landlord, she nervously opened it and froze. Standing outside were 2 professionally dressed men beside a sleek black luxury car. One politely introduced himself as an executive assistant representing Daniel Harrison and requested that Emily accompany them immediately. Assuming there had been some misunderstanding, she reluctantly agreed. Moments later, she found herself entering the breathtaking headquarters of Harrison Global, where employees respectfully stepped aside as she was escorted into the top-floor office. Daniel Harrison stood waiting beside floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Before Emily could apologize for taking his time, Daniel walked forward, smiled warmly, and thanked her once again for saving Sophia. He explained that his daughter had wandered away during a charity event after becoming frightened by the crowd. Despite millions spent on security, it had been a stranger with nothing who protected what mattered most to him. Emily humbly insisted anyone would have done the same, but Daniel quietly replied, "No." Thousands walked past. You stopped. He then surprised her by revealing he had watched the security footage several times. He noticed how she spent her last money buying Sophia water, comforted her without expecting recognition, and never once asked who the little girl belonged to. More importantly, she sacrificed the interview that could have changed her own life. Daniel confessed that integrity like hers couldn't be taught or purchased. Then he placed a folder on the table. Inside wasn't a reward check but a formal employment offer as Community Relations Director for Harrison Global Foundation, a position paying several times more than the job she had missed. Emily stared in disbelief, convinced there had been a mistake. Daniel smiled and said, "Skills can be trained. Character cannot." Tears filled Emily's eyes as she accepted. Over the following months, she transformed the foundation's outreach programs, helping struggling families, funding scholarships, and creating support networks for single parents and unemployed workers because she understood their pain firsthand. Her compassion inspired everyone around her, including executives who had forgotten the human side of business. Sophia often visited Emily after school, proudly calling her my hero. Their friendship became like family. News of Emily's story eventually spread across the country, inspiring millions with a simple reminder that kindness still mattered. During an awards ceremony honoring humanitarian leadership, Daniel publicly shared the truth. He admitted that Emily hadn't changed his daughter's life alone, she had changed his own. Watching someone with so little give everything for a stranger forced him to rethink how he used his wealth. Harrison Global expanded its charitable programs, investing millions into communities across the nation. As applause echoed through the auditorium, Emily looked toward the audience and remembered her mother's words, "Never stop being kind, even when life isn't." She finally understood their meaning. Kindness doesn't always reward us immediately, but it plants seeds that grow beyond anything we can imagine. The interview she thought she had lost became the doorway to a far greater purpose than she had ever dreamed possible. Sometimes the greatest opportunities arrive disguised as heartbreaking sacrifices. If Emily had chosen success over compassion that day, none of this would have happened. Her story reminds us that true wealth isn't measured by money but by the lives we choose to help when no one is watching. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that good deeds are never wasted, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who still believes kindness can change the world. Your support helps bring more emotional stories that inspire hope, courage, and humanity. Emily barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the little girl's frightened face and wondered whether missing the interview had been the biggest mistake of her life. She sat by the small window of her apartment as the sun rose over the city, staring at the unpaid bills scattered across the table. Her landlord had already warned her that rent was overdue. Her refrigerator was almost empty, and her bank account held less than $20. Friends had often told her that kindness didn't pay bills, and for the first time, she wondered if they were right. Still, deep inside, she couldn't regret staying with Sophia. She had simply done what her heart believed was right. Around 9 o'clock that morning, a black luxury SUV stopped outside her apartment building. Curious neighbors peeked through their curtains as two professionally dressed men stepped out and politely knocked on Emily's door. Assuming they had the wrong address, she cautiously opened it. One of the men smiled and introduced himself as Michael, executive assistant to billionaire businessman Daniel Harrison. He respectfully asked if Emily would accompany them because Mr. Harrison wished to meet her personally. Confused and slightly nervous, Emily agreed. During the drive, she wondered if something had happened to Sophia or if the family simply wanted to thank her once again. She never imagined that the next hour would completely change the course of her life. The SUV entered the headquarters of Harrison Global, one of the most successful companies in the country. Employees greeted Daniel Harrison with enormous respect as Emily was escorted into his spacious office overlooking the skyline. Daniel stood near the window with Sophia beside him. The little girl immediately ran toward Emily and hugged her tightly. "Daddy found you," Sophia shouted happily. Emily smiled with tears in her eyes as Daniel thanked her once again for protecting his daughter. He admitted that no amount of money could replace the person who had chosen compassion over personal success. Then he surprised Emily by playing security footage from the park. The video showed dozens of people walking past the crying child without stopping. It showed Emily kneeling beside Sophia, buying her water with the last cash she carried, comforting her for nearly an hour, and refusing to leave even though she repeatedly checked the time. Daniel quietly said, "I have built billion-dollar companies by studying people. Yesterday, I saw something that cannot be taught in any university or purchased with any amount of money. I saw genuine character." Emily tried to explain that anyone would have done the same, but Daniel gently shook his head. "No," he replied. "Thousands had the chance. Only one person stopped." He then asked about her life. Emily honestly shared everything: losing her mother years earlier, struggling to find stable employment, surviving on temporary jobs, and missing the interview she had spent months preparing for. Daniel listened silently without interrupting. When she finished, he opened a folder and slid it across the desk. Emily expected another thank you letter or perhaps a small reward, but instead she discovered an official employment contract. Daniel offered her the position of Director of Community Outreach for the Harrison Global Foundation, with a salary far greater than the job she had missed, full health benefits, housing assistance, and the freedom to design programs that would help struggling families across the country. Emily stared at the offer in disbelief. Her hands trembled as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Why me?" she whispered. Daniel smiled warmly and answered, "Degrees tell me what someone knows. Yesterday you showed me who you are. Skills can be learned. Integrity cannot." Emily accepted the offer with overwhelming gratitude. Over the following months, she poured her heart into every project. She launched scholarship programs for disadvantaged students, emergency funds for struggling single parents, job training initiatives for unemployed workers, and food assistance campaigns that reached thousands of families. Because she had personally experienced hardship, every decision she made came from genuine compassion rather than business strategy. Employees admired her humility, volunteers were inspired by her dedication, and the foundation quickly became one of the country's most respected charitable organizations. Sophia often visited Emily after school, proudly introducing her as the lady who saved me. Their bond grew stronger with every passing month, and Emily became like an older sister and trusted friend to the young girl. Daniel also changed. Watching Emily's example reminded him that success meant little unless it improved the lives of others. Under Emily's leadership, Harrison Global doubled its charitable investments, opened community centers in underserved neighborhoods, funded educational programs, and created emergency relief initiatives that transformed countless lives. 1 year later, at a nationally televised charity gala, Daniel invited Emily onto the stage before thousands of guests. Holding back emotion, he told the audience how one unemployed young woman had sacrificed her own dream to protect a frightened little girl she had never met. He revealed that although he had spent his life building wealth, Emily had taught him the true meaning of riches. The audience rose to its feet in a thunderous standing ovation. Emily looked toward the ceiling and silently thanked her late mother, remembering the words that had guided her entire life: "Never stop being kind, even when life isn't." In that unforgettable moment, she realized kindness is never wasted. Sometimes it returns quietly, sometimes unexpectedly, and sometimes it changes not only one life but thousands more. The interview she believed she had lost forever had simply led her to a far greater purpose than she could ever have imagined. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that genuine kindness always leaves a lasting impact, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with your friends and family. Your support helps us continue bringing emotional stories that inspire hope, compassion, and faith in humanity. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next unforgettable story.